Uh, okay, inshallah, I think you started. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to our weekly discussions, inshallah, where we try to read the text and discuss, uh, you know, come together to try to hopefully get some guidance, be recipients of some guidance, inshallah, by sitting in front of the text and in front of the Quran. So as we've been studying for a long while now, we will continue with the 25th word. And where we are in this 25th word is a second ray, and 25th word has to do with the miraculousness of the Quran. So Nursi is taking or talking about the miraculousness of the Quran, and up to this point we've been discussing many verses and many different aspects. Like we've been talking about the eloquence, and he's presented many examples of the eloquence. We've been talking about the different aspects of the Quran, and in the second ray, Nursi is specifically taking into account this ray is the Quran's extraordinary comprehensiveness. So comprehensiveness is how large in breadth something is. Uh, or I think there's value in reading this. I can say the first flash is the comprehensiveness in the words. This comprehensiveness is clearly apparent from the verses mentioned both in all the previous words and in this word. As is indicated by the hadith, each verse has an outer meaning, an inner meaning, a limit, and an aim, and each has roots, bows, and branches. The words of the Quran have been positioned in such a way that all its phrases, words even letters, and sometimes even an omission, has many aspects. It gives to all those it addresses their share from a different door. So, just as this hadith here is saying, each verse has an outer meaning, an inner meaning, a limit, an aim, and each has roots and bows and branches. And we kind of went over that last week, but inshallah, try to keep this in mind as we go uh, over the verses is, like there's like an outer meaning, like an external meaning. Like for the mountain, it has pegs. There's like an outer meaning to this. You think of a mountain with pegs, and an inner meaning. Uh, what's the meaning of a peg? What is the purpose of a peg? Like the structure, and and different things. Like what is the aim of this? What are the roots, bows, and branches? Like there's the verses truly like a tree that branches out and touches everything, like with its roots. It's the verses can also do that, or the verses do also do that. So this week, so yeah, last week we studied uh, and the mountain its pegs, and we talked about how there's like the geographer that would interpret this in some way. There's a sociologist and the philosopher that would interpret it in other way. The scholar of natural science, they would all see a different wisdom within this verse, and they'd all understand it in a different way. And then this week we will continue with another example that Nursi presents. This is the verse: "The heavens and the earth were joined together before we clove them asunder." So this is from chapter 21, verse 30. Uh, Specifically, I can uh, I can show it. I do want to hopefully. So this is the specific verse. I do want to actually go from the start to this verse because I couldn't actually just to better understand the context of it. But just this verse specifically is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أولم يرى الذين كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما وجعلنا من الماء كل شيء حي أفلا يؤمنون. Which means, do the disbelievers not realize that the heavens and the earth were once one mass, then we split them apart, and we created from water every living thing? Will they not then believe? And the part that Nursi is emphasizing is the heavens and earth were once one mass, then we split them apart. Or the once is his interpretation. So the heavens and earth were one mass, then we split them apart. And it's kind of interesting. I found interesting just that Nursi is just really emphasizing this. When I read the whole verse, it kind of made more sense to me in like context. Uh, do the disbelievers not realize that the heavens and earth were once one mass and we split them apart? And then it's like goes on to say we created from water every living thing. Will they not then believe? Um, when I read this, it makes me uh think more of like the creation aspect of like the how things were created. And he's saying like the earth was created. Like that's how I'm understanding this verse when I read it. But Nursi's like focusing on this. So like we're being asked. You can say we're being questioned right now. I'm being questioned. Do the disbelievers, or do I not realize that the heavens and the earth were once one mass, then we split them apart? We can ask this question to us right now, to ourselves right now. And I do want to, inshallah, uh, I do want to quickly take a peek from the beginning because I think there were some other verses that kind of also speak about heavens and earth before verse 30 that could maybe give us a peek. So this might take like maybe 10, 15 minutes, but I think it's worth it to read it from the beginning. So I'm just planning on reading a translation, by the way, unless someone else would uh, recommend that we read the Arabic as well. So from the beginning, the time of people's judgment has drawn near. So this is Surah Al-Anbiya, by the way, the prophets. So it begins, the time of people's judgment has drawn near, yet they are heedlessly turning away. Whatever new reminder comes to them from their Lord, they only listen to it jokingly. With their hearts totally distracted, the evildoers would converse secretly, saying, "Is this one not human like yourselves? Would you fall for this witchcraft, even though you can clearly see?" The Prophet responded, "My Lord fully knows every word spoken in the heavens and the earth, for he is the all-hearing, all-knowing." And just as a side note, it doesn't specifically say the Prophet here. So you could always read this for yourself. My Lord fully knows every word spoken in the heavens and the earth, for he is the all-hearing, all-knowing. Or the messenger says this. Yet they say this Quran is a set of confused dreams. No, he has fabricated it. No, he must be a poet. So let him bring us a tangible sign like those prophets sent before us. Not a single society we destroyed before them ever believed after receiving the signs. Would these pagans then believe? We did not send messengers before you, O Prophet, except mere men inspired by us. Or we did not send before you except mere men inspired by us. So these things in here are his interpretation. So if you do not know this already, then ask those who have knowledge of the scriptures. I want to read this again. We did not send messengers before you, O Prophet, except mere men inspired by us. If you polytheists, or if you do not know this already, then ask those who have knowledge of the scriptures. We did not give those messengers supernatural bodies that did not need food, nor were they immortal. Then we fulfilled our promise to them, saving them along with whoever we willed and destroying the transgressors. We have surely revealed to you a book, in which there is glory for you. Will you not then understand? Imagine how many societies of wrongdoers we have destroyed, raising up other people after them. When the wrongdoers sensed the arrival of our torment, they started to run away from their cities. They were told, "Do not run away. Return to your luxuries and your homes, so you may be questioned about your fate." They cried, "Woe to us, we have surely been wrongdoers." They kept repeating their cry until we mowed them down, leaving them lifeless. We did not create the heavens and the earth and everything in between for sport. So I'll come back to this, but here there is a mention of heavens and earth and everything in between for sport. I'll come back to that. So had we intended to take some amusement, we could have found it in our presence if that had been our will. In fact, we hurl the truth against falsehood, leaving it crushed, and it quickly vanishes. And woe be to you for what you claim. This is also another verse that I want to emphasize and come back to. To him belong all those in the heavens and the earth, and those nearest to him are not too proud to worship him, nor do they tire. They glorify him day and night, never wavering. Or have they taken gods from the earth who can raise the dead? Had there been other gods besides Allah in the heavens or the earth, both realms would have surely been corrupted. So glorified is Allah, Lord of the throne, far above what they claim. He cannot be questioned above what he does, but they will all be questioned. Or have they taken other gods besides him? Say, O Prophet, show me your proof. Here is the Quran, the reminder for those with me, along with earlier scriptures, the reminder for those before me, but most of them do not know the truth, so they turn away. We never sent a messenger before you without revealing to him there is no God worthy of worship except me, so worship me alone. And they say the most compassionate has offspring. Glory be to him. In fact, those angels are only his honored servants, who do not speak until he has spoken, only acting as at his command. He fully knows what is ahead of them and what is behind them. They do not intercede except for whom he approves, and they tremble in awe of him. Whoever of them were to say, I am a god besides him, they would be rewarded with hell by us. This is how we reward the wrongdoers. Do the disbelievers not realize that the heavens and earth were once one mass, then we split them apart? And we created from water every living thing. Will they not then believe? So I just wanted to read up to this point. Um, and then further on, it will go into talking about how, and we have placed firm mountains upon the earth, so it does not shake with them, and made a broad pathway so they may find their way. And then it goes into other creations like that. Uh, so there was two verses specifically that I thought were interesting to look at when I was reading this. Um, First one was this one. So here we're also talking about heavens and earth. So remember the question, the verse that Nursi is looking at is the heavens and the earth were joined together before we clove them asunder. And here we see that we're talking about heavens and earth again. We did not create the heavens and the earth and everything in between for sport. So like when I first read this verse, uh, for sport, for playing, this creation, it was not meaningless. Like this is what I think about when I read this verse. The heavens and the earth, it wasn't meaningless. It was made for a purpose. Like it wasn't just just like a random happening. Uh, it just came to be. There's like a meaning behind it. There's a purpose behind it, and there is like a heaven. Uh, it. So like going off like how Nursi looks at it, like the outer meaning, like the heavens and the earth, like the skies, and then the earth, and everything in between. You could think about this as an all creation. And you can think about all, when we speak of heavens, we generally mean meaning, like all the meaning in things, or all the earth is like all like the material aspect of things. This wasn't done for sport. There was a meaning and purpose behind it. So kind of understanding what heavens and earth means. And then in the 18th verse, I really enjoy this verse. In fact, we hurl the truth against falsehood, leaving it crushed, and it quickly vanishes. And woe be to you for what you claim. So I thought this verse was relevant because we are hurling the truth against falsehood, and it leaves it crushed and it quickly vanishes. This reminded me of so let's go to our verse that we were looking at. So it's saying the heavens and earth were once one mass, then we split them apart. So there's like splitting going on here. In this translation, it's saying cleaving, or it's like clove. We clove them asunder. We split them apart. And this verse up here, it's talking about how truth is being thrown at falsehood, and it leaves a crush and it quickly vanishes. So, in some sense, like falsehood is being cleaved apart by truth, which as another way that I can. It makes me understand this verse as in the heavens and earth were joined together before you clove them asunder. Like the truth can be thrown at something to cleave it apart. So yeah, these are just reading the previous verses, trying to get some context of what this verse could mean. And inshallah, we will now just read what Nursi had to say, and then think further into it and try to understand where the comprehensiveness of this verse is, where the miraculousness of the Quran, like which lights of it we can see. Before I do that, does anyone have a comment they'd like to make about anything we've said so far? Okay, Bismillah. Inshallah, we can start. So another example, the heavens and the earth were joined together before we clove them asunder. A scholar untainted by the study of philosophy would explain the words joined together like this. The words joined together like this. Like this is from the verse. Specifically, if we are looking at the word joined is right here. In the Turkish version, he emphasizes that. Yes. So the words joined together that he's saying here. A scholar untainted by the study of philosophy would explain the words joined together like this. While the skies were shining and cloudless, and the earth dry and without life and incapable of giving birth, the skies were opened up with rain and the earth with vegetation, and all living beings were created through a sort of marriage and impregnation. To do this was the work of one so powerful and glorious that the face of the earth is merely a small garden of his, while the clouds veiling the face of the skies, sponges for watering it. The scholar understands this and prostrates before the tremendousness of his power. A searching philosopher would explain the same words in this way. While at the start of creation the heavens and the earth were a formless mass, each consisting of matter like wet dough without benefit, offspring, or creatures. The all-wise creator both rolled them out and expanded them into a beautiful, beneficial form and made them the source of adorned and numerous creatures. The philosopher would stand in wonder before the breadth of his wisdom. A modern philosopher would explain the words thus. At first, our globe and the other planets which form the solar system were fused together in the form of an undifferentiated dough. Then the all-powerful and self-subsistent one rolled out the dough and placed each of the planets in its position, leaving the sun where it was and bringing the earth here. He spread earth over the globe of the earth and sprinkled it with rain from the skies, scattered light over it from the sun, and inhabited it, placing us on it. The philosopher would pull his head out of the swamp of nature and declare, I believe in God, the one, the unique. So I'll be honest, when I uh, read this, I I instantly related with this modern philosopher, and also like the searching philosopher to some degree, because my mind goes to the Big Bang or things like the Big Bang. The heavens and the earth were joined together before we clothed them asunder. My mind goes to how, right now there's, we see that there's like an expansion going on, in the universe. We see that, or like the scientists theorize that there was like everything was very condensed together, and then there was some type of explosion or reaction, and then it's all expanding, and then it expanded, and as it's expanding you get stars and all this other stuff is happening, and these planets are forming, things are clashing with each other, and eventually after billions of years, we have the earth that gets formed, and then the sun is placed. I mean, we the earth orbits the sun, and then eventually, somehow life is created. Like that's the image that I do get when I read this verse. Is I go to this explanation of the modern philosopher, and then I say, oh, truly, like it's like a very amazing creation. Um, so it was hard for me to I do need help understanding how Nursi saw this. So this is the scholar untainted by the study of philosophy. So this is something more ideal, let's say, than the other ones, even though these other ones still say that they believe in God and that they are amazed by his creation. This one is untainted by the study of philosophy. So there's something wrong in these other two explanations, or maybe let's say it's not as ideal because there's a taint in them. So a scholar untainted by the study of philosophy would explain the words joined together like this. And I'm not sure how he arrives to this explanation. Uh, while the skies are shining and cloudless, and the earth dry and without life and incapable of giving birth, the skies were opened up with rain, and the earth with vegetation, and all living beings were created through a sort of marriage and impregnation. So I guess, so reading again, it kind of it helps, but I think because there's a heavens and earth were joined together. So I'm trying to see, okay, what was joined together, and I think in this explanation, there was non-existent, there wasn't life, there wasn't human life, there wasn't plant life. It was just it was a shining sky. There wasn't rain, and it was a dry earth. Like there wasn't life, and then the skies were opened up. It was clove them asunder. Clothing is like separating into two. So the skies were separated, opened up with life, and rain was given, and then earth was again opened up, and vegetation was given. So I think this is how he reaches this explanation. And all living beings were created. Yeah, I think these are I see that we have a hand up. Brother Yusuf, go ahead, please.
Can you go back to the verses again? So, oh yeah, because it looks like Nursi also is benefiting from what comes in the next part of the ayah. So do the disbelievers not realize that the heavens and the earth were once one mass, then we split them apart, and we created from water every living thing? Will they not then believe? So the coming part is mentioning water and creation of life. So there were no water before, there were no life before. And this verse is highlighting or reminding that water is being brought to from skies to the earth, and then life is being created in there. So I guess Nursi is reading this as some sort of a marriage between skies and earth. Initially, there were no sign of water, no sign of life in either one of them. But then something interesting happens. Water comes into the picture, life comes into the picture out of nowhere. So as if, and the Nursi is using, well, in the Quran is using the فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا, and Nursi is using the word fataha in there rather than fataqa, but it says opening up, like a just like a seed will open up and some new branches, new plants will come out of it. So as if sky is opening, as you said, sky is opening up with water, earth is opening up with plants, but there's this opening up that's taking place, which in a sense is also reminding me of resurrection. and this is happening right in front of our eyes. So what I like most with this reading is this is more like reproducible by everyone. Such an observation, such a conclusion is available for everyone. As author himself was saying, a searching philosopher, a modern philosopher would get these other meanings. But a layperson such as me, like even at best, if I talk about Big Bang, it's going to be at the level of what I have seen in Google or in Facebook. So I'm not really a modern philosopher, a searching philosopher. I'm just a imitator of those information. Whatever I hear, I repeat it. But when it comes to the first one, I can make such an observation. And as I read it as such, I can benefit from that. And this is what we have been discussing since last week, that those verses have different branches for everyone. And it's beautiful that I can get these lessons by observing how Quran is depicting it, reminding me that they were so distant, so irrelevant to you when the sky was clear and the earth was barren. But you are in need of water, you are in need of life, you are in need of sustenance. So then the Creator is separating them, separating in the sense that this lifeless single form is now becoming separated, just like the earth is being separated when a plant starts to come or starts pushing from below. Now this lifeless single form is being crushed, and life is as if jumping out of it to me in the form of rain, in the form of new green luscious that's coming out of earth.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair. Yeah, I think your comment helped me understand the difference between the three better. So I think the emphasis on how the first one, the first one that's untainted by the study of philosophy, or I think we could say the study of science, because when I read his explanation of what the modern philosopher would do, this for me is like a scientist. This is a astrophysicist or just scientist, or I mean, this is just basically almost a lot of people right now in the world. We all go through some basic science education, and we'd all have like some type of this type of explanation. But like the emphasis is in the first version, the scholar that's untainted. It's something that we can see right now, as you said. I can look outside and I can see the life being created right now. Uh, I can see the skies being cleft open right now, and how the life is being created there. Uh, yeah, I see Brother Bacon has his hand up. Please go ahead.
Selamun alaikum. Inshallah, you can hear me well. Otherwise, please let me know. So, although, like, I'm a big fan of, the layman understandings and like giving a higher priority or value to such understanding, I'm not sure in this text author is like trying to say something like this, trying to say the first understanding, which as you can call as the layman's understanding, is better than others because it's untainted. So I'm also looking at the original text, the Turkish version. There it is slightly clearer. In the first paragraph, it's just saying that someone who's not familiar with or who hasn't spent time to study those sciences or philosophy. But when it comes to second paragraph, the author is not even talking about the philosophy there. He's saying muhakkik bir hakime, which is, you know, someone who's searching for the truth, someone who has wisdom, who is a scholar, something like that, like an educated person in the real sense, someone who's educated, someone who's looking for the wisdom in things, someone who's trying to understand things, right, in a deeper sense. And when we look at the second paragraph, actually the author is talking about something great, like going beyond what we can see with our naked eyes. Now author is talking about the form and the purpose, how they come together to define you know, the utility of this or purpose of this of things. So he says, while at the start of creation the heavens and the earth were a formless mess, a formless and useless, let's say, mess, there is no form, there is no shape, and at the same time there is no utility. But then each consistent of matter like that, though without benefit, offspring, creatures. All the wise creator both wrote them out and expanded them into beautiful beneficial form. So both give them a form, what we see, what we observe, what we, you know, what we can touch or what we can, you know, see with our eyes, beneficial form, a shape, and make them the source of adorned and numerous creatures. So give them a purpose as well, gives them a utility as well. So now author is talking about how these two things, the purpose and the shape, are related to each other, how they are tied to each other. They are joined. But we, when we observe them, sometimes we observe them separately. We can think of form in an isolated manner. We can, for instance, again, talk about the utility in an isolated manner. We can do that. So we both experience how they are separated, but at the same time, we know that they are related to each other. So anyway, like, I don't think author here is trying to define a hierarchy of understanding and saying that if you are a clean-minded person, meaning your mind is not tainted with this philosophy, you will understand this ayah in this way, and it is a better understanding. But if you are tainted with the philosophy, you will have a less valued or worse understanding. I don't think the author is making such an argument here. And again, like what I'm reading in the second paragraph, talking about this form and the utility and benefit, I think this is so beautiful. So yeah, just let me start with such a note, and then if there's time, I can share some other thoughts as well. Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you for that clarification. It does make things a bit clearer to understand it that way as well. I see that we have so I would hopefully that you do make your comments in the future. I do think that as you said, it is actually really beautiful, like this idea of formless mass that has no benefit, which is then being transformed into this beautiful beneficial form. It's definitely a beautiful imagery there, and it's like a, you know, it's a very like nice thought, like to see that artwork, you know, to see the lordship that would take place when you know, change something that's formless and without benefit, but instead you fill it with benefit and you give it form. Like it's like a very carrying imagery is coming into my mind from that. I see that we have some comments from Aisha. She says, "What is the significance of them being cloven apart?" Not quite sure I understand. Would you like to elaborate on that question? If not, let's see if anyone else has an answer to that. So you're emphasizing this part here. Before we clove them asunder, you're saying. I see that Brother Bacon has his hand up, so I'll give the mic to him.
Selamun sorry, Selamun alaikum again. Oh, so I'm not sure I can answer this question, but like what I can say about they being apart. So I think this is how I experience life, how I experience things, regardless of their being material or immaterial. Like everything I experience, everything I observe, has different aspects, has different dimensions, has different the touching points, like touching me. So I touch them from different angles. I can touch them in different ways. And all these ways are usually, can you hear me? Can you still hear me?
Yeah, you cut off for like a few seconds, but we can hear you now.
Yeah, okay, that's what I realized. Okay, sorry for that. So I was saying, all these different aspects that I experience with things, I see them from one, the perspective. I see them separated. Like, for instance, the example that we always give and that I always dislike. I see that there are material aspects of things, and I see that immaterial aspects of things. I see a ladder, I see a word.
I cannot hear him anymore. Can you get? Yeah, okay. Yeah, we lost you, Brother Bitcoin. Okay, inshallah, when you get connection, we can continue with that explanation. In the meantime, does anyone else have any thoughts about we clove? What the significance of this word cleaving is in here? Yeah, yes, Atik, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal Bear Khan's idea. Where yeah, I was also understanding this in the sense that the heavens sort of represented maybe guidance or some sort of purpose or meaning behind things, and that the earth could represent like the material aspect of things, and just their physical value, and what it seems like in my life that these are two separate things, quite possibly, but before, at some point they were intertwined so close together that to be separated they had to be cloven asunder. They had to be forcibly stripped apart. It was not something that you could like easily pick off with like a two fingers, just pull it off. It was something so inextricably intertwined. but I but it's not it's not completely separated. I think that's what we can see and understand, that yes, they're everything material thing still possesses some sort of unseen aspect, something that relates back to the creator, and it's not just some physical, tangible thing, but it's, for me, it's like the ability to see it as pointing back to the creator, that is lost, right? We lost the ability, the understanding. We forgot how to do it, but it still exists. It's just about, uh, I don't know, asking for, searching for the ability to see these, make these connections.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. I think that also Brother Abdul Aziz has an interesting comment which might be relevant. He says, I can certainly see how the heaven and earth of my life are linked so closely. I wonder if the separation of the heaven and earth of my life is what brings some meaning, life in my life. Uh, so would you like to elaborate on this, Brother Abdul Aziz? I think that, the connection I'm making here with your comment is that, in my life, let's say the things that have form and the things that don't have form, or the things that have benefit, the things don't have benefit. In some ways, I kind of mix them together, or yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure I know what I'm talking about, but what I was trying to get to is the heaven and earth of one's life, like the highs and lows, and how they fluctuate so quickly that they almost look so linked. But maybe the separation of them is what brings the life. So I wonder if that if that we clove there in the area, and in the other ayahs that you were showing earlier, kind of just reminded me that maybe the separation between these two extremes is what brings some life into our life.
Yeah, definitely. Very. I think that from realizing that the heavens and the earth are like the highs and lows, like very uh good term to use, especially in this age. But like yeah, you go through highs and lows in life, and there is a sort of life that could be understood in that can come out of that. If you just go through highs and lows, and let's say you don't look at it with uh meaning, or you're not reading it with the meaning that maybe there is behind it, then it could just be, as Nursi was saying, like a dead sky and a dead earth. There's not really anything happening. But I think if you can read it with the meaning, then you can like cleave those high and lows and get some life out of it. Maybe that's my comment on top of your comment. So, Brother Birkan, please continue with your comment if you'd like to.
Oh, Jazakallah khairan. I'm sorry for what happened previously. So I hope my connection will be more stable now. So I don't know exactly where I left and where my connection cut, but what I was saying is everything I experience have different aspects, and these aspects are usually, not usually, always connected to each other, tied to each other. Somehow, like I know that they are separate things or different aspects, uh, which that brings richness to my experience. But at the same time, I know that they are somehow come together. They cannot be separated. They are joined. The usual example, a word, it has a physical form. It consists of some shapes, and if it is written, it's formed by ink or lead, whatever is used in pencil. At the same time, it has a meaning, which somehow different things, because I can talk about the meaning or think about this meaning in different forms as well, like the same concept, idea, apple, right? I can say apple, I can also say elma in Turkish, but I know that they refer to the same concept. They are kind of separate, but at the same time, they are joined together. They are the same thing. And even beyond that, they refer to, again, a physical object, the apple that I eat. Or another, the common example we always give, a signpost. I see a sign for Philadelphia, which is, the physical thing. And I know that it has a meaning. It means, I'm that close to Philadelphia, whatever the mileage is written on the table, the signpost. And also,
Brother Birkan, can you speak up a little bit?
Oh, sure, I can try. But at the same time, it also, the points to a physical location, Philadelphia. Like you can go and walk in Philadelphia. So anyway, all these aspects, all these different aspects in my life, they are always together as if, they're coming from the same source. An idea comes to my mind, which brings some emotion with it, which is related to some of my desires or some of my needs, which gives me some excitements or pleasure, or reminds me some memories. And they all somehow related to each other, as if, uh, once upon a time they were the single entity. There was a single entity, and the different, the parts of this single entity, or this single entity been through different processes and, come up with all these different aspects, as if it is so easy for me to see that they are created by the same source. But at the same time, I again experience them in different ways, in separate manners. So this separation between the things is there in front of me. Like, this is how I experience life. It's not something that I have to infer. At the same time, their togetherness, their being joined, at least at the source, it's also there in front of me. So I think this ayah is somehow telling me that no matter what you observe, whether it is, how life comes to earth after rain, or during a long session of contemplation, you realize the relationship between benefits and the form, or utility and the form. You will realize, this ayah says, that everything, even the things that you experience in an isolated manner or separate ways, they are uh, coming from the same source. They are related to each other. They are tied to each other. They were joined, and now you experience them differently. So I think this ayah is talking to my experiences, how I experience the world, the my life, and how the richness in the creation points to the oneness of the creation, the creator. Sorry, that's all. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you. Thank you for emphasizing the unity that is apparent from the how even if things are very separated, there's a very large unity that we can see behind that. Even as the modern philosopher is saying here, I believe in God, the one, the unique. It also says that. Brother Yusuf, go ahead.
So, I'll follow up with what Aziz was saying. So before things getting, so I was checking the meaning of the words fataka and rataka. Apparently they are two opposing words. One means stitching together, the other one means tearing apart or hatching of an egg. So when the verse in here says the skies and the earth were initially stitched together, or they were one. So as if I am indifferent to one from the other. So they don't carry much of a meaning for me. I am indifferent if it is earth or if it is the skies. So I'm not able to make use of them. I am equally distant from both. In a sense, they are equally useless for me. But pretty much like an egg, which within its shells. So you are distant from the content of the egg. It needs to be hatched. Or I am distant to what is under the earth, like the seeds or the plants or anything. I'm distant from them. And Brother Aziz was saying, my highs and lows in life. Maybe I might imagine living a life that is mundane, the same. Even if it is the best of the comforts, it's going to become dull, meaningless. But as you see some highs and lows in life, meaning you can now extrapolate it to, in general, observing the opposites in this existence. So once good and bad, hot and cold, or light and dark, as they get split apart, I start getting meaning by taking one as a reference point and then understanding the value of the other. It becomes my means to start understanding about my maker. It becomes my water of life in a sense. Because if I see some hardship, then I start appreciating the mercy that follows. So, and interesting part in here is the Creator says it is we who separate these things for you. Like we are tearing them apart, and it is us who bring life out of it. So I see right and wrong, I see dark and light. Then from this, I start getting some sort of an illumination, and everybody senses this in their life. I find guidance out of such ups and downs in life, or the opposites in life. Then it truly makes life life. Otherwise, life would become a dull thing, and I wouldn't know what heavens is. I wouldn't know what earth is. Everything would become equally meaningless, equally dull for me. Maybe I would consider both of them as earth, because I would just say, well, it's meaningless. But as I observe these separation, which the Creator is attributing to himself, and he says, don't you see that it is me who is making you go through these different things in life, each of which is pretty much like the, I don't know, the word that is used for germination. Yeah, germination of a seed. It's pretty much like germination of you yourself being a seed. I am making you split apart and putting you into some sort of an excitement to question what's happening. And a similar metaphor is in Surah Zilzal, like the earthquake. And when the earth is shaken or earthquaked, the chapter starts with إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا وَأَخْرَجَتِ الْأَرْضُ أَثْقَالَهَا. And then the heaviness, the burdens of the earth is being thrown outside. And then the human says, وَقَالَ الْإِنسَانُ مَا لَهَا. What's wrong with that? What's happening in here? So that questioning is actually required. Once things start getting, or as claw asunder or split apart, it's a interesting scene. What's going on in here is the I would say most natural reaction a human gives. Why is that happening? What's the point? then even that in Surah Zilzal, it continues, يومئذ تحدث أخبارها. This is the day we are going to give them the news. So these are really the environment in which we get news of what's happening, and as those hardships are happening in our lives, or good things happening after hardship, or hardship happening after some good times, we start questioning what's happening in here, as if somebody is pressing on a button to send me some message, and the Creator is saying that it is us who do that. Don't you see this? Because you start becoming lively, then your life becomes meaningful with those ups and downs in your life. These were the opportunities for you to get to know us. So these were the things that what Aziz's comment reminded me of.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. In the same vein as what you have all been saying, I think like this cleaving asunder, so like these like life experiences we have, one meaning I got from this verse is that we have a tendency, or I have a tendency to not really know what is heaven and what is earth, or not really know what is good and what is bad, or I might have false conceptions of what is good and what is bad. For example, something that is good is success. It's like wealth. I want to be the most powerful, smartest person, and just amass wealth. And this is like a good thing that I might think is good. This for me is like a heaven, a goal that I should be aiming for. So when I read, one meaning this verse has is when I read like the heavens and the earth were joined together, I see that in my perception of my life, I have heaven and earth like clumped together. I have not been able to actually see what is good and what is bad. Like I just clumped them together, and I'm serving this platter where I have success or like wealth, as if just like living for this material world is like a heaven, and maybe I have other things like just thrown in there too. I have it all just mixed it up together. So I've in some ways I've like tainted heaven, you could say. And then what happens is you then suffer failure, or God, or let's say he cleaves your life in some way. He separates your life in some way. Like a seed. I guess that was a good like a seed is being made to sprout. Your false conceptions that you've clumped together are now being cleaved, and you see that maybe the success that you were striving for so hard wasn't the purpose of your life. Maybe that you were given life for a different reason. So this is another form of cleaving that could be happening, and some life is coming out of this cleaving, because now you can see what your purpose is. You can see that this success is not for itself. It's not why you were given creation. You yes, use your qualities and develop yourself, but do it in the name of God, not in the name of just living for this world. Yeah, so that was another meaning that these verses gave me. Okay, inshallah. I don't know if we've covered everything, so maybe let me just go over the searching philosopher. Let me read through these two, and then it'll also give you time to make your final comments. We're also nearing the end. So a searching philosopher would explain the same words in this way: while at the start of creation, or why am I starting here? Let me start here. So here it's talking about a garden. So a scholar untainted by the study of philosophy would explain the words joined together like this: while the skies are shining and cloudless, and the earth dry and without life and incapable of giving birth, the skies are opened up with rain, and the earth with vegetation, and all living beings were created through a sort of marriage and impregnation. To do this was the work of one so powerful and glorious that the face of the earth is merely a small garden of his, while the clouds veiling the face of the sky sponges for watering it. The scholar understands this and prostrates before the tremendousness of his power. So I don't think we specifically talked about this point. So this point is, it's just seeing the earth as, since it's being given life, the skies are being cleaved apart and rain is being sent down. This earth is like a garden. And then Nursi is saying that, this earth, which I see is as my home, it's like this huge planet, but it's being so easily taken care of. It's just like a tiny garden for this caretaker, the sustainer that is able to provide this rain. This earth is just a tiny garden. It's nothing. It's not difficult to take care of. And like water is like from sponges. Like you're like squeezing a sponge and water is coming through it. Like it is very simple to take care of the earth. That's what I'm understanding. And the scholar understands this and prostrates before the tremendousness of his power. So there's a tremendousness of power that you are reading within this verse that Nursi is examining here. And then continuing, a searching philosopher would explain the same words in this way: while at the start of creation the heavens and earth were a formless mass, each consisting of matter like wet dough, without benefit, offspring, or creatures, the all-wise Creator both rolled them out and expanded them into a beautiful, beneficial form, and made them the source of adorned and numerous creatures. The philosopher would stand in wonder before the breath of his wisdom. So this philosopher, or this person that's reading this verse, or that's being exposed to this verse, and like, trying to understand the miraculousness of this verse and seek the guidance within it, this person would stand in wonder before the breath of his wisdom. So the first person, it's interesting, the first person would prostrate before the tremendousness of his power. The second person would stand in wonder before the breath of his wisdom, because he was able to take things that were formless, take things without mass, and then give them form and give them beauty. So in the same verse, we're seeing how two different people can interpret it and have different names really speak out to them. In the last paragraph, a modern philosopher would explain the words thus: at first, our globe and the other planets which form the solar system were fused together in the form of an undifferentiated dough. Then the all-powerful and self-subsistent one rolled out the dough and placed each of the planets in its position, leaving the sun where it was and bringing the earth here. He spread earth over the globe of the earth and sprinkled it rain from the skies, scattered light over it from the sun, and inhabited it, placing us on it. The philosopher would pull his head out of the swamp of nature and declare, I believe in God, the one, the unique. Yeah, so something I'm realizing now is in each of these paragraphs, it's a different name that the person is feeling closer to. It's a different name that's speaking out to them more clearly. This third person is declaring, I believe in God, the one, the unique. So like there's like the name of Ahad, the name of I'm not sure what unique is. Maybe Wahid or Ahad. But the one, the unique. So this is the name that's speaking out most clearly to him when you read this verse. And really it is interesting. We could sit down and talk about this verse for I think a much longer time actually. I mean, if we look at scientists, for example, this is like, or like anything that has to do with space, like astrophysics, astronomy, cosmology. This is what they're talking about all day. Like this is what they study. They study how the Earth, like the stars were formed. They study how, the tremendous beauty of the solar system and of the universe, and how light is propagating, and how light has this history that you can read in it. It's a very beautiful creation, a very powerful creation. And this light is everywhere. And wherever you look, you see the same galaxies. You see galaxies, you see planets, you see the laws of physics. I mean, you could sit down and study this verse and like from different angles, many different angles. And I think that in some ways I've confirmed it as well in this discussion, that especially from just like the outer aspect, when I look at this verse as like the creationals, like the creation of the heavens and the earth, and it's just very astounding, the creation of the universe. But then also bringing it very personally, as we've done in this discussion through your comments, in my own life, the ups and downs. I could also see how there is a cleaving that's happening there, how there's something that's being formed in my life, and as Brother Brekan emphasized, it's all joined together, even if I can't really see it, but there's a unity there, and they all come from the same thing. Yeah, so that's all I have to say. Inshallah. Okay. And I'll give the mic to Brother Yusuf, but I'd also like if you have any last comments to make, to think about them, and then we can hear them as well before we end. Brother Yusuf, go ahead.
Also, we can keep in mind that many of the verses that author is studying in this section is the verses that are challenged by like either unbelievers or atheists, saying that, well, is your Quran saying this? Sort of criticism. Without mentioning their criticisms, author is showing different meanings of, or how miraculous the very same verses that are being heavily criticized, how miraculous they are. I believe this verse is one such verse, and this is why author is also giving 2 out of 3 of the meanings to, even from that philosophical or scientific perspective, how such a verse is miraculously explaining the creation, but also from another perspective of when you look at it without even the modern perspective, how you would see it meaningful, and still it carries the message for those who are not really adopted the current perspective about how the like cosmology is explaining the very making of the existence. So in general, the attitude of the author in this, especially in the 25th word, is showing the miraculousness of Quran in the very same place that it had been criticized for being like regular or even absurd. So in this sense, also the text is doing an interesting job.
Alhamdulillah, thank you. Inshallah, we can end the discussion here then. Ramadan Mubarak to everyone, and I hope that you have a beautiful iftar, a very fulfilling iftar, inshallah. And I'll end here. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم من الحمد